Welcome everybody to the Latin Nerds Network. My name is Jose and this is my review for Challengers, the newest sports film starring Zendaya, who's been kind of a hot streak, coming off Dune 2 in particular, a movie which I really liked and she was really good in it. This one here, of course, focusing on three young tennis pros, or, I guess aspiring tennis pros anyway. And, telling the story of these three individuals from when they met to where the movie kind of begins anyway. Because the movie does start off about 13 years from when the actually point when they met. And we have the two guys who were friends for a while, playing tennis together, and they're on the same team, etc., etc. They end up meeting Zendaya, who is a young up and coming potential superstar in tennis. She's about to go to college. She's not going to turn pro yet. She ends up having a bad knee injury last year in school. Obviously that derailed her career, but she does end up marrying one of them, and he ended up becoming very successful, winning major tournaments. But now he's at a point of his life where he's kind of on the tail end, contemplating retirement, and he's not having a whole lot of success. And he's leading up to the U.S. Open, which is the only big Grand Slam tournament he hasn't won. Zendaya, to kind of get his confidence going, kind of get him in a groove, enters him into a smaller challengers tournament, is what they call it, very small little tournament, really beneath someone of his talents anyway, but she figures it's a good way to get his confidence going, and he ends up having the final match with the other part of the trio, his friend, former friend anyway, who they all had this kind of love triangle. So it's a very complicated relationship between the three, and that's what the movie focuses on. And I do like the way the story is told. It's a very well written script here, because it begins again 13 years since they met, and these two guys having this match together, this finals match together, right? And we have one guy, and these are two polar opposites in terms of how they approach life. One is very kind of youthful, kind of childlike. The other one takes it very serious, is very safe. But now we have the guy who's a childlike, who's really hasn't succeeded in tennis as much as he probably should have, and he's living in this car, basically can't afford the hotels, hoping to win the tournament, they get a little money. Of course, you have the other guy who's obviously found great success and ended up with Zendaya, of course, married and they have a kid now. But obviously the movie was, as the playing the last match, kind of goes back and forth between a few hours before the match up to 13 years prior when they first met, kind of telling the story and where they are at that point. Very fascinating. It's a very disturbing kind of story at times, very dark, which I enjoyed, and I like the interaction between them. The acting is fantastic. I think Zendaya is probably one of the best things I've seen her in personally, showing a lot of range. And like I said, I was never really her biggest fan, but she made a fan out of me of this one. She's really good, and they're all really good. And they have a great script to go off, and great dialogue, and the scenarios that they get into, it's very sexy at times, very dark at times, and because they really dive into these characters and why they are, how they ended up, and how all of them are motivated to some degree by the relationships they all had together, throughout those last 13 years. So that very fascinating, very gripping story. I was in, no doubt about it. Now again, not a perfect film, because sometimes the director got a little ahead of himself here, tried to do a little too much in terms of making it a little too stylized. In terms of a lot of the music was kind of confusing and off-putting at times, particularly in dialogue scenes. I didn't quite get. Sometimes there's some camera choices and angles he uses, particularly in the match, which was distracting and completely unnecessary. But again, those are small gripes. Overall, yeah, a little bit too long, but it's fine. It's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. Could have cut down 15 minutes here and there, kind of make the movie flow a little bit better. But ultimately, you really are engaged in what's going on here, and this story, particularly Zendaya's character, who's very conflicted in where she is in life, what she has accomplished, and how that knee injury and all that affected her, and etc. And these two rivals of friends who end up becoming rivals, and what's going on with them. I really liked how that all played out. Very cool. The ending might be divisive in terms of how it ended. I understood what they ended up at, and I liked parts of it. It could have been executed a little bit better, a little more clear. I had a friend of mine who didn't quite understand what was going on, and that he wasn't the only one. But that being said, I did like overall how things kind of came together. I really enjoyed that. It just should have been executed better. But that being said, man, the great acting, of course, and Daya's fantastic. She's fantastic in this. Everyone is too, and everyone brought the A game. Good writing, very excellent script, compelling, very interesting. And at the end of the day, is one that I'm obviously recommending highly. This is one of my better movies of the year, not top 5 or anything, but definitely one of the better films I've seen this year. So if you guys get a chance, go watch it at home, at the theater, whatever the case is. I know there's not exactly a movie that's going to draw big audiences to the theaters, and I get it. But if you can watch it at home at some point, I think you guys are definitely going to enjoy this one. That being said, challengers, you guys are going to watch it. Comment below, let me know what you guys thought if you do. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe below and feed the money to go to the movies and talk about it afterwards. See you guys next time.